Welcome to the Everyday Words Podcast, your daily dose of etymology and vocabulary.
You know that exact visceral feeling when you walk through those massive automatic sliding glass doors of an international airport terminal?
Oh, absolutely. The rush of air.
Yeah, you get that sudden freezing blast of air conditioning and then the faint, chemical smell of jet fuel mixed with overpriced coffee.
Right.
And there's this immediate, overwhelming wall of noise. You've got announcements echoing off the high ceilings, the aggressive clatter of wheels rolling on tile, thousands of people rushing everywhere.
It's sensory overload.
It really is. And no matter who you are or how much you travel, there is almost always this tiny, involuntary spike in your heart rate. It's a space that aggressively demands your attention.
It is. The airport is a really unique psychological environment. I mean, it's a space designed entirely for transition, for constant movement, but it's paradoxically governed by, incredibly strict rules.
Yeah, high stakes.
Exactly. High stakes and invisible boundaries. It's an ecosystem that inherently generates friction, even when everything is going perfectly to plan.
Right. And today, we're doing a deep dive into something really unexpected. We are actually looking at a set of materials from an English language learning audio program.
Specifically, lessons focus on navigating airport terminals.
Yeah, exactly. But here's the thing for you listening. We aren't doing a vocabulary lesson today. We're looking right past the flashcards because hidden within these specific language materials is a profound, almost philosophical masterclass about human communication.
And the psychology of anxiety, really.
Yes, and how we, as a species, completely alter our behavior when we navigate unfamiliar, high-stress environments.
It serves as a perfect microcosm, because what these materials are really exploring is what happens to the human brain under extreme cognitive load.
Right.
When you take the baseline stress of an airport and then force someone to operate in a second or third language, you are pushing their mental processing power to its absolute limits.
And we're going to tease this right now. By the end of this deep dive, we're going to reveal a secret trick embedded in these materials.
A really good one, too.
Yeah, it's a surprisingly simple behavioral strategy for finding your way in literally any intimidating system in the world, just bypassing all the complex rules.
But to understand the neuroscience of why that cheat code works so beautifully, we kind of have to start right back at those automatic front doors.
Right. Let's look at the very first hurdle the materials introduce, which is dealing with your luggage.
Yeah, so the narrative in the lessons introduces this character named Mark. And he immediately confesses that his suitcase is incredibly heavy because he tends to drastically overpack.
Which, relatable.
Totally. He actually admits to packing 4 pairs of shoes for a simple 2-day trip.
Okay, let's unpack this pun, very much intended.
Nice.
Because on the surface, that's just a funny anecdote about a guy who doesn't know how to pack. But I was thinking about this, and I want to bounce a theory off you.
Okay, let's hear it.
Isn't the physical weight of that overpacking, like Mark literally dragging a heavy suitcase full of redundant shoes he will never use, isn't that the ultimate physical manifestation of mental baggage? Like, are we over-preparing physically because we are terrified mentally?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, you hit the nail on the head. In psychology, we look at that as an attempt to establish an illusion of control.
Right.
When you enter a highly unpredictable environment, like a foreign airport where you don't speak the language, your brain recognizes a severe lack of agency. You cannot control the flight delays.
Or the security lines.
Exactly. And you cannot easily communicate with the people around you.
So we control the only thing we can, which is our physical inventory.
Precisely. The brain basically says, I might not be able to ask for directions to a shoe store, so I will bring 4 pairs of shoes to eliminate that potential crisis.
That is wild.
It's a physical manifestation of cognitive anxiety. But here's the brilliant thing the language materials do. They explicitly validate this.
Yeah, they do.
They don't just tell the listener the vocabulary for suitcase. They take a moment to state that traveling in a second language makes everyone nervous.
I noticed that. It felt almost like a therapy session for a second. But why is that validation so important from a learning perspective? Like, does just hearing it's okay to be nervous actually change anything in the brain?
It absolutely does. When you are anxious, your brain's amygdala, the fear center, is highly active, which actually inhibits the prefrontal cortex.
And that's the logical part, right?
Right, the area responsible for complex thought, language generation, and problem solving. By normalizing the fear, by telling the learner that Mark's anxiety is a universal baseline, you reduce the meta-anxiety.
The fear of being afraid.
Exactly. That slight reduction in emotional friction frees up actual cognitive bandwidth. It literally gives the brain more processing power to deal with the environment.
That makes so much sense. It normalizes the panic so your brain can actually focus on the problem at hand. But of course, you can't just stand at the entrance pulling that heavy physical manifestation of your anxiety forever.
No, eventually you have to hand it over.
Right. Which brings us to the check-in desk, the domain of the gatekeepers. And this is where the materials focus heavily on a very specific psychological threshold.
Yes, the transition from holding a ticket to holding a boarding pass. The materials spend an inordinate amount of time ensuring the learner understands that these two concepts are not interchangeable.
So what does this all mean? Because frankly, it confused me at first. I mean, I catch myself conflating the two all the time.
A lot of people do.
I'll be at the airport holding my boarding pass, and I'll say to the person next to me, let me just grab my ticket. The materials explain that the ticket is just the financial transaction made on your computer, while the boarding pass is the physical document they print at the desk.
Right.
But I want to push back on this a little bit. We live in an entirely digital age. I don't even get a printed piece of paper anymore. I just scan a QR code on my phone.
Right.
So hasn't technology kind of rendered this distinction obsolete? Does this psychological threshold even exist anymore?
It's a great question, but the threshold absolutely still exists, even if the medium has changed from paper to pixels.
Really?
Yeah, it's about a change in state. Think of the ticket, the financial transaction, as a theoretical promise. You bought an idea of a trip months ago while sitting on your couch.
Right.
But an airport is what sociologists call a liminal space. It's a space of transition where you are no longer where you started, but you haven't yet arrived where you're going.
You're in the in-between.
Exactly. And to officially enter that liminal space, you must undergo identity verification. The check-in desk is where the abstract theory of your trip is forced to manifest into a physical reality.
Oh, I see.
Whether they hand you a slip of paper or ping a secure QR code to your device, that boarding pass is an active, location-aware token. It proves you've been scrutinized, your passport has been checked, and you are now a sanctioned entity within the system.
So it's not really about paper versus digital. It's about authorization. Once you get that boarding pass, you are no longer just a customer who bought something. You are a manifested traveler.
That is exactly the shift. And notice how people treat that boarding pass, even the digital ones. They become hyper-vigilant.
Oh my gosh.
They keep checking their screen, making sure it hasn't disappeared. They hold the paper version with a white-knuckle grip.
100%. It becomes a security blanket because you realize that without this tiny digital barcode or slip of paper, you have zero rights in this building.
Exactly.
You've traded the heavy luggage for this tiny, incredibly powerful document, and you desperately need it because now you have to face the ultimate choke point of the entire infrastructure, security.
The environment where cognitive load hits its absolute peak.
It is so intense. The materials capture this vulnerability perfectly. You are taking off your coat, you're pulling off your belt, you are literally standing in your socks on a cold tile floor.
Hoping your laptop doesn't get dropped.
Right. You're pulling your expensive laptop out of your bag. And the survival strategy these language lessons offer for this specific moment is completely wild to me.
Oh, it's fascinating.
They essentially tell the learner, don't even try to speak English here. Just shut up, watch the person in front of you, and copy their every move.
It is a remarkable and highly accurate observation of human behavior under extreme pressure.
But why? Like, why does the advice shift from here is how you politely ask a question to become a silent copycat? I find it fascinating that you can take thousands of highly stressed humans from all over the globe, speaking dozens of different languages, and the moment they hit the conveyor belts, everyone just defaults to this mindless herd mentality.
We just sync up.
Yeah. We grab 2 plastic bins because the guy ahead of us grabbed 2 plastic bins.
What's fascinating here is we revert to mimicry because of how our brains prioritize survival when overwhelmed. This brings us back to cognitive overload.
Right.
The security checkpoint is an environment of intense sensory bombardment. Loud alarms, flashing lights, barking guards, and a strict time pressure.
It's awful.
Your prefrontal cortex, which handles language processing and complex decision-making, simply cannot process all those variables at once.
It essentially crashes, like a computer opening too many tabs.
Precisely. And when the prefrontal cortex is overwhelmed, the brain relies on older, more evolutionary survival mechanisms.
Which are?
Specifically, the mirror neuron system. Mirror neurons are a network in the brain that fire both when you act and when you observe the same action performed by someone else.
Wow.
They are the biological foundation of empathy and crucially herd behavior.
So when I'm watching the guy in front of me take off his shoes, my brain is actively mapping that action so I can do it without having to consciously think about it.
Exactly.
I don't need a sign in English telling me to take off my shoes. My mirror neurons are doing the translation.
Yes. Spoken language is almost entirely stripped away here because verbal processing is too slow and prone to error in a loud multilingual environment.
That makes total sense.
Instead, we engage in a shared, nonverbal choreography. The system relies entirely on visual cues and behavioral mirroring. The security line functions because humans are biologically hardwired to conform to the physical actions of the group when under stress.
That is incredible. It's like a biological failsafe. We drop the complexity of language and just become part of the flock.
Right.
But eventually, you make it through the scanner, you put your shoes back on, you collect your dignity and your laptop, and you step out into the terminal maze. And this is the moment of peak disorientation.
It really is.
You have to find your specific gate, which is just a letter and a number somewhere in this massive building, and the signs are pointing in 12 different directions.
You have survived the physical scrutiny, but now you face a purely navigational challenge while your stress levels are still elevated. The clock is ticking toward your departure time.
Which brings us to the grand reveal. Here's where it gets really interesting. The secret trick that these materials promise for exactly this moment. The absolute best way to navigate a complex system when your brain is freezing up.
Yes.
And honestly, it feels like a cheat code. The advice is, when you are lost, do not try to construct a grammatically perfect sentence. Do not walk up to an employee and say, "Excuse me, good sir, could you please direct me to the vicinity of gate A12?
They explicitly warn against trying to formulate complex requests.
Instead, the trick is this. Simply hold your boarding pass out, physically point your index finger at the gate number printed on it, look at any airport employee, and ask just 4 words. "Excuse me, where is this?"
Where is this? Accompanied by a physical gesture directing their attention to the document.
That's it. Because, as the lesson points out, the airport worker looks at boarding passes thousands of times a day. They don't need your beautiful syntax.
No, they don't.
They see the alphanumeric code you're pointing at, they instantly recognize the pattern, and they will just point their finger down the hallway. You bypass all the difficult mechanics of grammar and skip straight to the result.
It is incredibly efficient.
But I really want to challenge this because I feel like there's a catch.
Okay, what is it?
If I am in a foreign country, or even just a new city, and I walk up to a busy worker, shove a piece of paper in their face, point at it, and grunt, "Where is this?" Isn't that incredibly rude? Doesn't that violate all the social contracts of politeness we've been taught? I feel like the worker would be annoyed by how blunt that is.
That is a very natural hesitation, but it stems from a misunderstanding of how social contracts change based on the environment.
Oh, really?
Yeah. In linguistics, there is a concept called pragmatics. Semantics is what words literally mean, but pragmatics is how context influences meaning. In a relaxed environment, say a coffee shop or a dinner party, yes, utilizing complex sentence structures and politeness markers is socially required. It signals respect.
Like saying, "Could I trouble you for the salt?" instead of just pointing and saying salt.
Exactly. But an airport terminal during rush hour is not a dinner party. It is a high-velocity, high-stress transit hub. In this specific pragmatic context, efficiency is politeness.
Efficiency is politeness.
The airport worker does not want a 5-minute grammatically flawless conversation with you. They have 300 other panicking passengers to manage. By pointing at the boarding pass and asking, "Where is this?" you are reducing the cognitive load for both of you. You are delivering the exact data point they need, the gate number, with zero extraneous noise.
Wow. Okay, so I'm actually doing them a favor by being blunt. I'm stripping away the performance of politeness to give them pure data.
You are. And this raises an important question, which is arguably the most important philosophical question of this entire deep dive.
Yeah.
What is the actual fundamental purpose of language? Why do we use it at all?
I mean, we get so caught up in the performance of it. We want to sound smart. We want to prove we mastered the vocabulary.
But the materials contain a quote that cuts right through that ego. The thesis statement of the entire program is this: perfect grammar doesn't matter when you are trying to catch a flight. Communication is about being understood.
Communication is about being understood. It was so stark, but it completely reframes how we think about intelligence and interaction.
It separates language as a tool from language as a status symbol. When you are lost, language is merely a tool to get you from point A to point B.
Right.
The primary objective is never flawless execution of the rules. The primary objective is the successful transfer of meaning. By using the physical prop of the boarding pass to do the heavy lifting, you are acknowledging that absolute perfection is often the enemy of effective communication.
It grants you permission to be imperfect as long as you are clear. And honestly, that is a massive relief because we carry that fear of looking stupid into almost every new situation we face, not just airports.
We do. And that is why this lesson extends so far beyond travel. It is a vital strategy for anyone stepping into an unfamiliar system.
Let's take a moment to look back at the journey we've just mapped out. We started at the automatic doors, dragging the literal heavy luggage of our anxiety, trying to physically overcompensate for our lack of control.
Right.
We stepped up to the psychological threshold of the check-in desk, trading the theoretical idea of our trip for the physical reality of the boarding pass.
We then navigated the immense cognitive overload of the security checkpoint, relying on our mirror neurons and innate biological herd mentality when the environment became too complex for verbal processing.
And finally, lost in the chaotic maze of the terminal, we learned the ultimate pragmatic cheat code. We bypassed our paralyzing fear of imperfect grammar with a simple point of the finger and a blunt question, proving that efficiency is its own form of politeness.
And the true goal of communication is simply to be understood.
It is a profound look at how we survive friction. And this is exactly why this matters to you, listening to this right now. You don't have to be navigating an international flight to use this.
Not at all.
Think about the last time you started a new corporate job and had to figure out the unwritten rules of a new office, or the last time you tried to learn a complex new piece of software. We freeze up because we think we need to speak the language of that new environment perfectly before we can even participate.
Oh, absolutely.
We think we need the perfect sentence, the perfect jargon, the perfect presentation.
But the reality is, the system just needs you to engage. It doesn't require perfection on the first try. It requires a clear signal of your intent.
Exactly. Don't let the fear of imperfect execution prevent you from moving forward. Use the tools available to you. Point at the metaphorical boarding pass.
Yeah.
Which leaves us with one final thought to mull over today. We've seen that a grammatically clunky, incredibly basic "where is this?" while pointing at a piece of paper is a powerful enough strategy to successfully navigate a human being across the globe.
Right.
So how often in our daily lives, in our careers, in our relationships, in our personal goals, do we overcomplicate our requests? How often do we let the overwhelming fear of not sounding perfect stop us from simply pointing at the problem in front of us and asking for the direction we so desperately need?
We spend a lot of energy dragging around heavy luggage we never needed to pack.
We really do. Sometimes you just need to step through those sliding glass doors, drop the heavy bags, and boldly ask for the way forward.